Hey guys, welcome back to Stop Renting Podcast. Rodrigo Posada,
Kara Burger,
Shoreline Realty, Sarasota,
Realty.
Florida. It's getting hot outside again.
It's disgusting. I don't like it.
First thing I did was blast the AC.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah. I feel the wind on me right now. It's a little cold, but I know it feels good because it's so
They keep
hot.
The house at 75. I operate at 71.
Depends
72.
on the downstairs is a lot warmer. Even though heat rises, but it's a lot warmer. Maybe because the doors. You guys have like
a split AC.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm a lunatic. My house has 69.
Yeah, it's a lot colder up here than
I pay a lot for electricity. It's why I have to sell houses.
True. So today's episode, we are going to talk about common negotiation mistakes buyers and sellers make.
Ooh, mistakes that are made.
Mistakes.
A lot of mistakes are made in real estate.
Everyone's human and makes mistakes, so it happens.
Which is why you need good.
Yes. Real estate agents.
There you go.
So we're going to start off. Why is starting with a lowball offer a risky strategy for buyers, and how can it backfire?
I have a story.
Oh, I love story time.
I had these one clients that this is probably 2 years ago. So we were looking in the neighborhood. I think they were from Colorado. They had a gorgeous 10 or 15 acre property in Colorado that they showed me pictures of.
Nice.
So they came to Florida. They wanted to buy their Florida home, I guess. And we went to go see a few properties. There was one property that had been on the market a little bit and needed a little bit of work. I want to say it was like in the 650s or 675. And they're like 600. And I told them, that's going to risk being offensive.
Yeah.
Right. And people are like, no. Maybe they'll just negotiate. They'll renegotiate with us.
Counter
or
back.
They'll counter or something. I'm like,
we want to start really low.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. Lo and behold, they ignored us completely. The listing agent was like offended. Mm-hmm. Beyond, she was unprofessionally offended in my opinion, because it's not my right. I typed up the offer, but I didn't do it. But she even got offended because of how offended her sellers got. Mm-hmm. Long story short, a month later, that listing agent lost the listing. Another agent picked up the listing. I don't know if it expired or they canceled it. I don't remember.
Something.
But my buyers and me were still looking for their property, and we saw that it came back on the market. I don't know, but we went back to see it.
Yeah, you're like, okay, it's back. Let's go.
I put in a showing request. Mm-hmm. The new listing agent, not the one that had gotten offended, the new listing agent called me and asked me, are these the same buyers?
Oh, so you guys are the buyers. The seller was that offended.
I swear. It is like a month there. And she said, and I said, yes, they are. They're the same buyers. They want to see it again. And she's like, the seller does not want them to see the house. I was like, what? Yeah. I've never had that. I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. They don't. If it's the same buyers, they don't want. They're not interested.
So they were on the red flag list.
Yeah, they were.
Do not associate list.
So sellers that had already taken the time to either expired. They were obviously, the property had been on the market a while when we initially started this debacle. Even a month later, they were still like, we don't want to deal with those people. So never happened to me since or before.
Tell your client, well, they refuse.
I was like, as politely as I can say it, they're not letting us show the house.
Yeah.
Legally speaking, a seller can refuse for whatever reason to let you into their house. It's still their house.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's obviously that doesn't happen often. It's the only time that's happened in my career, but it did happen.
It can backfire. So that's a good story. So you don't want to go that low where you're going to, because you don't, and on the other side, you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know how the seller is emotionally. You don't know where they're at. So you gotta be
Real
careful.
estate is an emotional game.
Yeah, you gotta tread lightly.
Sides. So, but yeah, there's ways to put offers that are like still offensive, but like less offensive. And what that exact number is obviously up to you and your buyer's agent. But just know that there is a risk of offending the seller to the point that if there was a deal to be made at a slightly higher point, that deal is no longer going to be made because of your initial offer. So, yeah.
Number 2, how does revealing your maximum budget too early weaken your negotiation power?
So if you are, I guess this is both ways. So if you're a cash offer and the house is $200,000 and you send a proof of funds of $500,000,
right?
The seller is going to know right off the bat you have $300,000 worth of cash.
You have all this extra funds. Why are you putting an offer at this? Go up.
Correct. Same as if you send a pre-approval. So say the house is at whatever, 400 and you're pre-approved up to 500. The seller, even without a listing agent, but definitely with a listing agent, they'll know for a fact if like the house is at 450 and you offered 400, but you're pre-approved at 500, they're like, no, you definitely have the room. You're already pre-approved. Technically, your pre-approval should have already, your mortgage lender should have already checked your bank balances, that you have the cash down, you have the credit score, you have the income for that 500. So you do qualify for it. So just be cognizant if you're underbidding on the price of the home and your pre-approval is at the original asking price or even higher, the seller's definitely going to be, it's just human nature, emotion, to be like, they can definitely afford my full asking. Why aren't they offering my full asking?
So you can change that when you throw in your offer.
Correct.
Make sure it's around the offer price.
Correct. So within reason, you can adjust this is a little trick of the trade.
Mm-hmm.
You can speak to your lender and say, hey, I understand that I'm pre-approved at 500. I would only like you to send me a pre-approval letter at 425, 450, whatever it is. That's not illegal. That's completely reasonable. The bank just tells you your max loan amount. You can adjust that as you want. So something to keep in mind, which again goes back to having a buyer's agent who's educated. Because if your buyer's agent just says, yeah, I'm your cousin, just give me the offer, I'll type it up when I'm off my 9 to 5. They're probably not going to think of that.
No, they're not going to look at all the details and see all of that. So
don't take my ideas.
Yeah, right.
I don't care.
What are the risks of asking too many concessions or repairs after the home inspection?
So that's actually another funny story. So that's one that I'm in. I just came from an inspection earlier today. And my buyers are thankfully very well educated, and we've had a lot of conversations about the whole buying process. So they're very aware of it. There's some big things that obviously need to get resolved. But there's a bunch of little miscellaneous things. And I've had other, I guess it's not the best story for this, but whatever. Well, I'm going to pretend that it went horribly this morning when it went pretty good. So if we would have come up with, or the inspector would have come up with a list of, 20 or 30 little miscellaneous things. And the buyer would ask me, hey, go to the seller and say, we need $15,000 off for what realistically is probably $1,000 or $2,000 worth of cosmetic repairs.
Right.
Again, to the emotional thing. If we would have just asked for the $2,000, we probably would have got it, or maybe $1,500. But if we asked for some of
pushing too hard.
If you push too hard, the same as with a super low offer, the seller just might be like, "Have a great day." Like where we're at is where we're at, and the seller during the inspection period with an as-is contract, the seller cannot back out, but the seller can just refuse to negotiate. They can just say no. Like our terms are what our terms are. I don't care about your inspection report.
I think it also depends on like what offer you throw. Because if you throw a pretty low offer, it gets accepted. Like great, you got my number accepted, and then you have all these lists of items that you're requesting now the seller to fix and give you money for, concessions, whatever.
It's gonna well, the sellers, and I've had that happen where again we're in a buyer's market, so we're negotiating prices across the board. That's just the nature of the market, up and down. But we've had those where the buyer already got a good price, and then it's human nature, but you forget that what price you got when you go to do the inspection.
Week 2 comes by, and you're like, okay, next.
You're like, all right, well, these problems still exist. So you, as an advisor on the buyer agent side, should be like, hey, I understand these lists of small items need to be repaired, but you need to realize this house was at $450, and we just got it under contract at $420 or $430. So theoretically, in the seller's mind, they've already given us $20 or $30 grand, whatever that number is. So we should be cognizant of that when we go ask for more money. Yeah. Again, if you like the house, if it's an investor who doesn't care and is just trying to get the lowest price possible to flip the home, that's different. But if you're like just a normal buyer and you like the house, just be cognizant. If you want to walk away with that house and the best situation, just be
what items need to be fixed. It all depends on that stuff, but it can change things. So you do have to be a little bit careful.
Correct. And just don't try to be offensive, because it's a human being on the other side.
Right. You can't be like, well, they should fix it. They're required to fix it. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, no. I mean,
you get what you can negotiate.
They're not, though.
Yeah. So, just be careful. Same with purchase price, initial offer on purchase price, and with inspection, what you ask for. And side note, I always do recommend, it's better to ask for a moderate seller credit that would cover the cost of whatever repairs, as opposed to having the seller do it. So what was it? Oh, it was like 2 of the cam lights in the kitchen. Right. They're like, oh, well, can we ask the seller to bring in an electrician? I'm like, we could, but why don't we just ask them for $200? Yeah. I have plenty of electricians. They'll come and they'll fix it. You know it's done right.
And then you know it's done right.
Exactly. Because I've seen horror stories when I was earlier, when I would not suggest that to people. I'm like, no, let's just ask the seller to fix all this. And then the day before the walkthrough,
it's not done very nicely. No, it's done or it works at the walkthrough, but then a couple days later something doesn't work again, and you're like, well, now it's too late.
Because the seller, again, a human being, you don't know their position, you don't know how much financial wiggle room they have. So they may just find the cheapest guy. They might have their cousin who's an electrician. Yep. And then most times, depending on the severity of the issue, I had one a few weeks ago there was live termites. So It was a 1950s house. It was remodeled, but the back part was wood. The Florida room had been enclosed, and it was wood. So at that point, I suggest, get them to tent it because there's live termites. Right. Let's not wait 3 weeks. They can eat a lot in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But most other miscellaneous small cosmetic things, get a seller credit.
Get a seller credit for. I agree with that. Why is it important for buyers to respond quickly during negotiations, and how can delays hurt their offer?
Time kills deals.
Very, very true. I'm in that right now with my guy. Like,
Kara's, you have to tell that story.
Yeah, I mean,
Kara's in a tricky one right now.
Yeah, you just have clients sometimes, that you want to do their due diligence, and sometimes do things backwards. You put an offer in and then you backpedal. I'm like, wait a minute, let's take an extra time to do this and that. Or you do your inspections before you even on contract. All kinds of scenarios. But time does kill, because now the seller's sitting there like, one, what are you doing? You're making me go back and forth. Like,
are you playing games?
They're playing games with me. Yeah. And meanwhile,
which is not I honestly don't think it's a buyer's intent, but it does come across. And I love them. I don't want to play games.
It does make a difference. Yeah, because they're going to feel some type of way about it. And then there's other people still, they're still showing the property. Yeah. That can happen as well. And if someone else could come in and be easy, like, oh, I'm ready to go, do everything you want, and be the perfect offer for the seller, and then you just lost out. You wasted 2-3 weeks, however much time you had to wait and think about things, and you lost the perfect home you loved, you worked so hard on.
Correct.
So that can happen.
Yeah, it happens. Time kills deals. I learned that when I was in mortgages. Which ties back to when I don't like that listing agents don't answer their phones, because that's time wasted.
And because you're going to have, like, if you have a client that has a million questions, that just asks all the questions in the world, you need someone that is responsive, that you can talk to every single day and try to get those questions answered and try to move things forward as quickly as possible. Otherwise, the deal can just not come
through or fall apart. Yeah, it does fall apart. I know nobody believes me until it happens, but deals can fall apart for a missed phone call. Yeah, please know that
for sure. Because then the buyer could also be like, "Oh, I'm done. Let's move on." Something else.
Dude, it's the one from this morning. There's a washer and a dryer. The dryer is a new Samsung. The other one's the washer's an old Whirlpool. The dryer's a new Samsung. And then in the garage, there's a newer Samsung. So there's new and new. I've asked the seller's agent 5 times which one is staying. Now, during the inspection period, I'm going to have to write into the addendum the nicer Samsung washer and dryer stay. Okay. Again, is it the end of the world? No. Is my buyer kind of annoyed? Has she asked me 5 separate times? She just wants an answer. Yeah, she wants an answer. But when I call the listing agent, there's a Google AI.
Oh, I hate that. Not like
delete that thing. Yeah. Get rid of that thing.
Come on, we're still human.
I'm an AI blah blah blah. Here to it sounds supernatural.
No, you don't need an AI robot. How busy are you?
Great job, AI developers. It sounds super realistic. It sounds like a real secretary. It still sucks. Get rid of that.
No one likes that.
Nobody should have that. If your listing agent has that,
no,
you know what I'm thinking.
No.
I hate those things.
So do I. How can ignoring or undervaluing cash offers be a costly mistake for sellers?
So if you have an offer come in that's financing and it's higher, and you say, I want more money for the home, which is fine. Everybody's in their own. Maybe you need to get every last dollar out of that house. I'm not knocking that. That happens all the time.
Get it? Yeah.
But you choose to take the financing offer that's a little bit higher than or a lot higher sometimes than the cash offer, because you want to get more money out of the home, which again is totally normal and fine. Then again, the financing offer by itself, but just it's the way it's designed, has more risk. And the risk being you spend 30 days off the market or longer, depending on their how long they give you, they ask to offer, and how long their financing contingency period is. So you spend whatever 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks off the market, and then something happens with the financing,
and they can't get approved,
and they cannot get approved. The home doesn't
something
appraise.
Comes up, they find something.
Yeah, the home doesn't appraise correctly. There's a lien on your property somewhere you don't know about. A million things could happen that could crash the financing, that could cause the financing offer to fall through. So just be cognizant of that. Again, if say the financing is at $450 and the cash offer is like at $390, then it's probably worth the risk, because even if you have to come back, you're still probably going to get more in the $390. But say it's $390 and the cash is $390 and the financing is like $410 or $415. Again, it's up to each person, how much money compared to how much risk. But just know that financing offers do have a risk, no matter how much due diligence anybody does.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's going to happen. So then you just almost, if that falls through, wish you just would have accepted the cash offer, and then you don't know, that buyer could just be moved on and found something else.
Yeah, if it's a cash,
it is a risk. But doing due diligence, and also I think that's big on both parties of buyer's agent and listing agent to communicate with each other and kind of get a feel of things and be in the loop of things 24/7 as much as you can to know, so you can keep
without
your
the
client
AI
informed.
sector.
Yes, talk to a live person, so you know how to move things forward. Why is failing to make small repairs before listing a home a mistake that weakens negotiation power?
As a seller.
Yeah,
because it's things that are going to come up during the inspection period. So when you're using an as-is contract, which is what's usually used below, call it $1.5 million or so purchase price, during the inspection period, the seller, no matter what your listing agent says, the buyer can still negotiate because they hold the cards. They can simply back out during that period of time, whether it's 5, 7, 10 days. They can simply back out with a release and cancellation. They don't have to tell you as the seller why they're backing out.
Right.
They can back out for whatever reason. So if during the inspection period there's 10 or 15 minor things that come up that could have been fixed, a light bulb that's not working.
Silly things, yeah, like drawers loose.
The door, this morning, one of the cabinets, they didn't put the screw on. Like the cabinet was only hung from the top screw, not the bottom.
Okay.
Again, not the end of the world, but if you add 10 or 15 or 20 of those things, there is going to be a number where the buyer starts to be like, either I need money back or this is too much. If they missed all this, what else did they miss? So within reason and finances allowing Jesus, can't talk. If you have the money, I'll just speak plain English. If you have the money, fix the little things.
If you already know about it, like, oh, that cabinet is loose, and this door panel's messed up, this door handle's wonky, get it fixed before listing your home.
It'll just make it easier. You'll have a smoother inspection period.
Yeah, you don't have to have all that extra stress.
Yeah, you as a seller are not going to be stressing out, like, what are they going to find? Are they going to find the cabinet that's loose, or the door handle that's backwards, or the paint that we didn't do? Just fix as much as you can.
Yeah.
You'll get, if it's less than like $2 or $3 grand worth of like small cosmetic, you'll get your money back. I promise.
It's totally worth it. And then there's things you didn't realize, which just happened. And then I feel like, then you're kind of like, oh, well, I didn't know that. Yeah, of course I'll fix it.
That's easy.
It just depends. But it
if it's obvious to you, it'll definitely be obvious to the inspector.
Yes, exactly. No hiding. What's the danger of accepting the highest offer without verifying the buyer's financing?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So ties back into the wholesalers that we talked about in another episode. There's people that will put in offers with fake pre-approvals and fake bank statements. That is just
scary.
Point blank, the reality of what happens in the market. We do listings. I get them all the time. Emails from, we're in Florida. I don't know why. They all come from Miami. I come from Miami. But all the agents down there, and they'll send a very clearly fake bank statement with saying, hey, we have 500 grand. And you look at it. I know what a Chase Bank statement looks like. I know what a Truist Bank statement. I know what a Chase Bank, Bank of America, whatever. They're fake.
You know when it sounds fishy too? Even in the email, like, hey, like they write their whole little spiel about their offer and their client. And
it's automated. It's all AI. It really is. Wholesalers use AI to pump out thousands of offer letters with fake bank statements and all that stuff. So it's extreme, because again, if it's a wholesaler and they're not able to wholesale it, then you're going to have to come back on the market. So that looks bad. And if it's I don't even know if it's a normal person trying to buy with a fake pre-approval, I don't even know what that would be like, unless they're just trying to renegotiate. So again, get a listing agent
as much as you can, always.
And have a listing agent that can verify pre-approvals and
can easily see what's fake versus not. And then if anything, do more due diligence and do more investigative work. Oh, last question. Why is dismissing backup offers a mistake, especially under certain circumstances?
So
under certain markets.
I guess it's depending on the market, but I would think maybe like if it's a very in either market, like if it's a seller's market and you have multiple offers, you should definitely take backup offers, because there's no first of all, there's never any danger to you taking this backup offer. The initial person who's buying the house, it's, if anything, it doesn't affect them at all, as long as they do their job and buy the house. So, and if it's a buyer's market where you don't have many offers, if you're lucky enough to get an offer and a backup offer, you should definitely take it.
Definitely.
I don't see any negative in accepting backup offers.
If
just anything,
there.
You'll sleep better as a seller knowing that if this initial offer falls through, instead of having to go back to the market, you have at least a potential for another buyer.
Yeah, at least hope for somebody else.
Yeah.
So never dismiss it. Always take them all.
Oh, yeah. And then when you go pending, just let your listing agent know, hey, I would like to go pending accepting backups, no matter how good even if it's a 2-week cash offer, you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe the 2-week cash offer individual finds another property in the inspection period and backs out of yours and goes to buy the other property because they got a better deal.
Yep.
Anything can happen. It's real estate. It's a wild
always good to have a line of people in your pipeline just in case.
Just in case.
And that's it for this episode. So
Woo!
that's it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.